going to bring that out in this this process here. Always add a layer. Command J. I don't know what it is in PC land, probably the same, but on the Mac it's Command J. So there's our insurance layer. Oh, let's get rid of that. Our insurance layer. Now, let's try clarity, because I like what that does. I'll show you here in a second. And again, I generally don't use presets. Always hit reset. Put it back where you get it back to neutral. And I'm going to pick the general collection. And what's cool about this is that you have this little grid here. If you hit that, it builds full pictures of all these presets. It's kind of a good way to see where you're going without seeing a small little picture up top. There you go. So that's all those presets that are actually like almost full size. And you can run through and grab the one that you want to begin with. I say begin because I never leave these things alone. Pardon me, you have a little flu going around here. Okay, I like the high contrast Color Pop 2. Sounds like a cereal. Okay, and we are in clarity. Let's just start moving around here. We'll move our contrast. I tend to move these things in very small increments because a lot of very small moves equal a very large move. So somewhere around there, and then we'll bring our low contrast down a bit. Again, very, very small maneuvers. And already we're from here to here. Oh, sorry, let's get rid of this window here. Where is it? There it is. We just close that drawer, and we have our full view. And now we're medium contrast, again, very small moves. It's probably fine. Looks kind of medium already. And we'll bring our high contrast down just a bit, somewhere around here. Takes a second or two to write. So far, we've gone from here, dig into more what it looks like. Our tone level, we'll bring our black level up just a bit, although I tend to watch these areas that are bordering on being dark. I don't like these dark patches, so I'll keep this down to a minimum. We'll bring this up to around just a shade, 21, 22, something like that, 23. The mids we'll bring up just a bit, up to about maybe there, or is this too much? Maybe that. There we go. Now the color's crazy, but bear with me. There we go, somewhere in here. And then our whites, we're going to bring that back a little more dramatically to about here. Okay, now we're getting in the ballpark. Again, we're going from here to here. It's getting there. We go into our hue, saturation, luminosity, HSL. Make sure you pick the right one. If you do hue, it's going to get crazy. I want to saturate every color in there just a little bit. So as you can see, the level of minutia you can get into in this particular plugin is pretty serious. I'm going to jack the reds up just a shade. I mean, like very small. Again, a lot of small maneuvers equal a great big move at the end. So I tend to keep things pretty tight here. And then we'll go up again. And then we have yellow in here. Yellow's kind of hot already, so I'll keep that down to about maybe 9 or 10, something like that. And we have a blue, and we'll bring that up a little bit. Right about to here. Then overall, we can pull that back maybe just a notch, about to here. Okay, so getting down to the end of the ball game here, we have original and here. Now, to me, to my eye, the oranges are a little bit hot. The yellows are pretty good, and there's some blue patches that almost look like this in real life, but they're a little bit over the top. But what does over the top mean? This is a reflection, abstract. You can do whatever you want to it. It's not product photography. You can jack up the colors, take them down, do whatever you want. So I'm doing what I think works with the next move here. I'm just toning down certain aspects of it. But in general, any kind of abstract image is just wide open. Do whatever you want. And let me get this down here. Okay, I'll keep edge aware on because there are some edges and it can't hurt. That'll compartmentalize the color a bit. And strength is fine, maybe a little bit less than that. Brush size is good, and the hardness, it's a pretty soft brush right now. And I'll just very lightly, I've got a Wacom tablet which is pressure sensitive, so I tend to brush very lightly through here, so I'm barely touching the tablet. And I'm just toning down these, what I consider a little bit over the top, maybe uncharacteristically so. And as you can see up here, I'm just brushing through these things very lightly. And we're pretty much there. I think that's pretty much what it looked like. So let's have a look at this. There's where we started. Come on. That's where we started, and we thought that was really good, but it really wasn't, because the real world color that we saw when we were there, and will be there in about a month, looks more like that. That's what you see when you're there. It blows your mind, but the raw file does not give you that. We've got to bring that out in software, and that's pretty much the story of clarity. We're going to move on. 20 after already? Jesus God, man. Okay, let's move a little quicker. Let's save this. Okay, and we'll go to image. We're only on 3. My God. Okay, this is our what I call our Cohimo car, shot in Cohimar, Cuba. We go there every January, and this is Ernest Hemingway's old hangout. They perform Santeria in the back alleys, so it's witchcraft basically. So if you black magic. So if you basically see that, put your camera away, turn around, and leave. They don't like being photographed, to say the least. But they weren't around here. So this is a great little town. A lot of old cars. Excuse me. Get a glass of water here. And we found one that was in a very open, beautiful area. So at this point, we're going to create our insurance layer. Going to do all the work here. And the thing I had in mind when I shot this was to do a black and white grunge. So I'm going to do it now. I'm going to go into Filter and Black and White Effects 2. Sorry, I'm doing this. I'm congested here. And that'll come up here in a second. There we go. And we'll just reset that back to scratch. Okay. Stylized collection, I want a grunge look. So I'm going to go down to, and you can see it on the right. It's pretty cool. You can see it. We're going to come down here. Dynamic grunge. I'm sorry, dynamic 1, smooth. Okay, where's the grunge 2? There it is. That's kind of where I want to start. And again, that is our beginning part. You can stop with this if you want. Say I'm fine with this and move on. Okay, why isn't that closing? Oh, come on. There it is. Okay, the first thing you do on a black and white image, to me, is affect the filter. Choose a filter. Normally red is my first choice in most cases. Red or green in most scenes like this. And there's our red. So it gives me what I want. A little darker sky, a little more contrast. The hue is what we've chosen. The strength is what we're going to choose. We're going to max it out, see what it does. That gives you an idea of what we're talking about here. It's too much. It's kind of blocked up here. I want some of this, but not all of it. So we'll back it off a little bit. Maybe somewhere around, okay. We're getting there. A little more. Okay. So already we're looking at this. We're on our way. You've got to get in here and play with the software so you know how to get what you want without fishing around too much. You've got to do the upfront work. What I'm looking at here are 2 possible issues, right here and right here. As I go through adding contrast and doing these maneuvers, these could tend to blow out, especially here. The last thing I want is a big white hole by my subject. So I'll be keeping my eye on that area specifically as we go through these processing maneuvers. So we're going to go up to our basic exposure, and we'll move the contrast up, which can maybe blow the highlights out, so I'll keep it kind of minimal. And I think we're okay so far. Go to our a little more brightness. Again, small moves. It's all about small moves. Okay, a little bit hot, a little bit hotter, I mean, light-wise, and then we are watching our detail in here. We're going to boost whites, but we're going to boost them in a negative direction. We're going to pull them back. And that should pretty much lock in. That's pretty much in there. There's detail, as you can see. There's detail in there. We're going to go down to our adaptive exposure next. And we'll close this up. There we go. I'm sorry. Adaptive exposure. There it is. And then we'll move this up just a little. Again, all small moves. Up to about here. And then our regions. Just play around with that. See what we get. It's pretty much wide open. Somewhere, like with all things in life, the truth lies somewhere in the middle, right? So I'll pick this up probably right around 20 or so. Okay. We're good with that. Protect highlights. We're going to use that, and we know why. Because of that area right there. That's the only possibility for blown out white, which I'm not a fan of at all in clouds. So I tend to watch out for that specifically. So we're going to protect our highlights, and you'll see that get a bit darker as we go. There it is. Maybe a little more. Okay, now we're seeing detail in here. I think we're good. And then we'll increase detail slightly to balance that out a bit. And now we're good to go. Everything's even. We did it. So we're good to go so far. We're going to fine-tune this a bit. I want to darken the sand to make the car pop. That's the reason. So we'll go down to local adjustments. And we're going to hit burn. And then we'll do detail. I want to bring a little more up in here. But we'll do burn first. And there's our overall strength slider again, which you saw before, set at 20. It's probably normally good there. Brush size is good. Opacity is fine. Good soft brush. Edge aware. This is huge. When you have edges, you have the horizon, you have the car. We're painting all around these areas. Edge aware, we're going to max that out to keep all of the adjustments from bleeding, or as much as humanly possible. And we're going to darken our sand. No software is perfect. Nothing is perfect. But having this thing on edge aware is pretty darn impressive. We're going to paint around to darken the sand a bit. And that will separate, there's our shadow, and we'll separate the car from the sand. And then we'll hit detail. Here we'll change a few things. Brush size is fine. The opacity a little bit more. Hardness is good. Edge aware again. And watch how the grill starts getting detail. See it? It's just popping in. And again, it's staying confined to the vehicle as much as possible, given the fact that software is not perfect, but this is awfully good. And then we'll just do that. And we have a lot of negative space. Let's try, and there's our mask. You can see it, we're painting, you can see it here. You can see it. And we'll leave that at 20. You saw that work before. And in our finishing touches, I'm going to drop in a small vignette. First thing you want to do is to pick where you want the vignette to be centered. The software will center it in the middle. There's no subject there. I want it to be centered somewhere on the subject, here. Then we'll say our vignette strength. We'll pull this back a little bit. I'm sorry, up to around here, going the wrong direction. There we go. Nice and dark. Vignette size. You'll see that spread a bit as we go higher. There it is. Now the center pops out a bit more. And then the transition, we'll move that up a little bit. To lighten it. Did you see it lighten there a bit? Okay. Now, let's have a look at what we've done, for God's sake. And then we're here to here. Kind of a quantum leap. But again, this is the shot that I had in mind when I took it. I wanted black and white grunge. And the Topaz software works particularly well and particularly quickly to bring this, I guess, pre-vision, imagined image, whatever, to effect, to fruition. So we're going to OK that out, and we're going to move on. Okay, the next image is, okay, oh, good. We're going to go here. This is shot in Charleston, South Carolina. This is our first workshop venue every year. We begin here, and it's a great place. This is the smaller of the 2 Audubon swamps. 3, actually. This is the smallest of the 3. Just phenomenal. I'm going to try something different here, but first we're going to add our layer, our insurance layer, and we're going to pick a filter that's not often used, and when it's used kind of not to its greatest advantage at times. Simplify 4. And where's our drawer? It's actually hidden. Click on the arrow and it pops open again. And the preset I want, I've been through all these. You can see it up top, all the various effects that come in. The very top upper left gives you an idea. So I'm going to pick the category of Buzz Sim and the Buzz Sim specific filter. Now a lot of people, you see this stuff posted online. It's kind of a pleasing look to an extent, but then you realize that the image winds up being about the effect and not about the subject. You know, I tend to want to use these effects to enhance the subject rather than becoming the subject. So this is just step 1 of the process. Good starting point, not a good ending point for me. But everyone has their thing. Global adjustments, we'll go to simplify and we'll say our size. We'll bring that down just a bit. It's about 1 second to right, so you'll see a small lag. Detail strength. Now, let me tell you, the idea here is to bring this finished image into Photoshop and do some masking, which we're going to do. It'll be quick, but you'll see why in a few minutes. Detail strength will make this look a little more palatable, at least for me. Let's move this. There it is, up to around 25 or 30 or so. Okay. Now detail pops in. Let's bring this back just a notch. Back to maybe, I don't know. There we go, somewhere like that. So that's a little more easier to work with what I have in mind, which you'll see in a few minutes. So we're going to go down to adjust. And our brightness is fine. Contrast, you don't want to add that too much. That'll darken these areas too much. Contrast will make these detailed areas black, pitch black. And I'm not a fan of that. I want to push the saturation up a little bit in 2 areas. First area is here. Second area is in the boost. Just a little more, somewhere around, oh, come on, around there. So there we go. Color's a bit over the top, which is fine. Dynamics. I don't even know what that does, so let's find out. That's what it does at 100%. Pretty crazy, right? But unless you push it up, you don't know what it does, do you? Of course not. 100% basically 0%. We want it somewhere in between. So we'll move it up a little more, maybe around here. There we go. Now we're seeing a little more crunch in the trees a bit more. And we'll go to our structure and we'll pull that back to soften the edges a bit. Again, each of these maneuvers has a specific, most of them have a specific intent in mind. And then structure boost, that's fine. That's fine right now. Okay, let's take this into Photoshop. We're going to say okay, boom, we're out of here. I did do a layer, right? Yeah, good. Okay. All right, so now we're going to add a layer. Or a, what's that called? A mask, sorry. If we want to paint the effect out, which we do, make sure that white equals, follow the bouncing cursor, equals black. If white is here and black is over here, hit B for brush, hit the bracket to adjust the size, and when you start painting, the effect gets painted out of wherever you choose to paint. on the trees, I want them to be pretty much just a minimal amount of the simplify effect. So, and then we start painting. See it? See the detail come in? And we just brush over this. Very important when you do this, and make sure you hit the reflections also. A lot of times I've done stuff like this. I say, oh, the reflection is wrong. So you got to hit the subject and the reflection. Oh, no phone calls. My phone's turned off. Good. Excellent. Okay. So we did that. Threw me for a second. Let's do our bracket to negative. Left bracket. Make it smaller, I mean. And we'll do this. And again, get the reflection. And a much more left bracket. Change you on the fly. Bring this tree in. Down to here. And then a little more. I'm not doing this as carefully as I would because this takes some time, but I want to get it to where it looks good. So we'll do this, and then we'll again hit the reflections. What will happen here is that we're going to create a much deeper, almost three-dimensional look because we're separating the background, which is a highly manipulated scene with simplified, and we're removing it from the trees to a large extent. That causes great separation, which gives you more of a three-dimensional, more of a deep look to your scene, where there's actual depth to it. You can feel it with your eyes. Okay, we're here, and a little larger brush. I'm going as fast as I can. I just want to get the look right for you guys. Okay, so we're here, and let me see. A couple more little things. This is almost none. Okay, and one more here. And the grass. The grass is a bit much for me. So we're going to mask it out, but we're going to pull the opacity back so it's not quite as dramatic as the trees. And then, oh, I missed one, sorry. Let's put this back where it was. And we'll get the cypress knees out of here. These are called cypress knees. If anybody's walked on these or walked around them, you know that they don't move. And they're very low to the ground, so it's easy to trip. You got to watch your way around in these sort of areas. So now we'll pull this back, and we'll brush the grass back a little bit. So just a little bit, not a whole lot, just enough to make it a little different from what's going on back here. And we'll add a little bit of detail back to the old really great gazebo back here. And that's pretty much our ball game. Now let's have a look. Let me show you a little trick. There's the mask. If you hold down the Shift key and hit that mask, it turns it off. Hold down the Shift, turns it back on. Only the mask. So that's off. Finger off the Shift, hit the eyeball. That's where we started. This is the process. And then we did everything. And then holding down Shift, we created our mask. And now we have a lot more depth to the image, more three-dimensionality. Whenever you paint an effect out of part of the image, it creates depth. Not unlike adding contrast to a specific subject in the scene, it'll create more depth. So that's pretty much it for that. Let me see. Hope we're fast enough here. Okay, great. We're going to do what's called a digital montage. Image 5 out of 7. We're doing okay, I think, time-wise. Okay. This is our raw file. It's okay. It's a great subject for what's called a montage. Those who are old enough to remember transparency film, can I see a show of hands? Yeah, not too many, exactly. It's where you shoot two distinctly different exposures on transparency film, put those two together, and you get a very high contrast, almost three-dimensional kind of a look. We're going to replicate that here. We're going to try to. So let's hit our insurance layer here, and we're going to go back into Topaz Adjust, which is an absolutely astonishingly great program. I'm going to reset all, and we don't want any presets. We're going to do this from scratch. Okay, and right to adaptive exposure. And we'll begin by just push the sliders around, probably about here. And then the regions a little bit less. You'd be like, I'm looking for a specific look. If I bring this down to here, which is a normal configuration, this slash, these three controls are a great way to start with adjust. But if you want something specific, maybe not. I'm going to push this against the grain here, go a little bit, quite a bit higher. And now we have this. And then when we darken it, okay, you see all that crunch coming in here? We're going to keep that. Do we need to protect our highlights? We sure do. There's some in here. So we'll take this up to around, I don't know, 5 or 6. That's fine. Protect the shadows. Yeah. We got some dark areas here that I would like to open up. And we'll probably about the same. There you go. Now we're here and we're here. Let's go into details. We'll move the strength again up. We want to get a highly detailed, very out of focus image to blend with the original. I've tried doing this many ways, and this way, I don't know why, but it seems to work. Let's bring this back a little bit. Oh, come on. That's close enough. And then detail boost, just a little bit. Maybe back to there. See, it's getting look like almost bad HDR. And then the threshold. This will change everything. It's very high right now. 15 is very high. That's 25. And again, that is nothing. We want it somewhere up in this range. So now we're from here to here. The radius has no effect. I've tried that already. We're not going to sharpen. We're going to go down to here, finishing touches. Now, yeah, I know this sounds crazy, but we're going to defocus it completely with all this detail. Go into diffusion. And I've tried this with various settings, and it works best when you do this. A little bit less. Okay, something like that. We will take this image. Now this is raw material. This is one of 2 layers. And I did do a second layer, right? Yes. Okay. At this point, we have our original and we have this. If you go into the mode will be, what is it, soft? Yeah, soft light. It brightens it, but it gives it a glow. The one last step that we have, and you should use this a lot, go into layer, adjustment layers, and then pick curve. And then we'll just, see, creates a layer, and we just darken it to taste. And there's your montage look, just like that. All those things matter. I know it sounds crazy to make it sharp, then diffuse it. I've tried to get around it. I can't. This is the look, and that's the way that I have to get it. So we're going to move on. I'll answer questions when we're done, I guess. Okay, let's go to, this is a great thing in Kohimar again. Now, compositionally, I know it's kind of weird. Hands cut off. You barely see that. The action's great up here. The reason that it's composed a little bit sloppily is because these kids see a camera, they come running out, they do this, and they're gone. There's no like, can you move to your right a bit? I mean, they stand there, they do their spiel, and they split. So you got to be quick, and it's one of my favorite shots from our trip. Look at all this action going on. This guy was great. Until they're good friends, just really a great bunch of kids. So we're going to create our layer again, and back into Topaz Adjust. What I like about this type of scene, like my good friend Scotty Stolberg, who I'm sure you guys know at Topaz, has this quasi HDR look, which I love, that he gets with Adjust. And I try to figure out how to. I think I've got a handle on it. It's almost HDR. Let's close this window. Okay. We're going to go into our adaptive exposure again, like we always start here. Oh, let me reset. There we go. And then we'll move this up, to about maybe somewhere in there. And then move our regions up, somewhere in there. See it? And then we'll bring our contrast to about, okay, see it start to happen? We're getting that really nice, pardon me, quasi HDR kind of a look, and then one more maneuver will pull this back a notch. Well, that's more than a notch. Somewhere in here, maybe a little brighter. Okay, there's a quasi HDR look. You see the shadows that we created here? And we're going to go into our detail tab next, and we'll push up the strength kind of dramatically. There you go. See that modeling texture coming in now? Detail boost. Pull that back a little bit. There you go. And now smoothed it out so it pushed it up and then pulled it back a notch. You've got to do these two things. It's not going to work. Threshold again is, I think it's fine. It looks fine where it is. Let's do one more thing. We're going to go into local adjustments. Yeah, I love this. And we're going to brush out. We're going to brush out. You see the effect, you see the dark patch on the shirt right here where it's a little dark area? That's from what we've done. We're going to brush that out. See it lighten up? And we're going to pull some, going to clean the faces up a bit. Not a lot, very low pressure on the tablet. It just smooths out a lot of that look. This guy here is great. Going to give him a great big tip next time I go back. Take some baseball cards, drumsticks maybe, I don't know. Anyway, that's the idea. So we're going to say okay, and I will show you the before and after. That's pretty much where we started, and that's that sort of quasi HDR kind of a look. It's really a fun thing to play around with. And one more. We have one more. Man, quarter of. Okay, let's go to the last shot. This will be a quick one. We're going to go into, let's add our layer right here, and then we're going to go into Detail 3, which is a pretty phenomenal plug-in here, or filter. Detail 3. Now, oh good, it didn't lock up. I'm so excited. It normally takes twice for it to work on the computer, but I'm going to reset all. Here's the deal. Now we started, we're going to go to the smooth collection. I want to get rid of just a lot of this visual noise here. It's not really sharp. It's distracting. I'm more worried about the center here, right? So go to Smooth Collection and Skin Smoothing. That's where we're going to start. See, already it smoothed this out a bit. So we're done with that. Close the window. A little more real estate. Now this is where we're saying to practice moving the sliders back and forth. I found that for what I want to do, taking every one of these back to goose egg all the way to the left gives me this. Ignoring and leaving these alone also. I didn't touch anything. All of these are set to pretty much 0, as low as they can go. Now, what that does is it gives me the petals that I want. Just very smooth, ethereal. All the visual noise is cut out. We just got to find a way to bring back the center. So let's go down to is there one more thing here? There we go. Effect mask. Did I hit that? There we go. There's our mask, and we're going to basically hit brush A and bring the strength up a little bit. Brush size is good. Hardness is good. The most important thing is the edge of wear. You want to keep it confined into this area, and we'll bring in our center. Isn't that nice? We want this to be the most prominent part of this. But I also want the outer, they call it stamen or something on the outside. Yeah, I'm not a flower. Anyway, whatever they're called, I want to bring those in. We'll go to brush B and a little less strength, and we'll bring these in. See it here? See the difference? And we'll bring all of these in. And we'll just brush over this. The end result, I'm hoping, will be a subject where the center, I mean, I want the image soft, but I want the inside to be a little sharper than anything else. We're just painting these back in. If you watch the window on the right, you'll see it live. Yeah, boom, that's it. So we'll say, okay, did you all get that? Okay, the point is, the main point is to practice moving these sliders back and forth. This only worked when I took every bit of detail out of everything. That's when the pedals got really good, exactly what I had in mind. And then we had to find a way to bring detail back to the center part in various degrees. This is sharper than this. You want the eyeball to go to the center. And that's exactly what we did right here. And let me see, it says here that I'm done. So, is my mic still live out there? Darcy?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Okay, that's pretty much it. And again, you'll be able to play this movie back when you get it. If you have any things that I went too fast over, but that's pretty much it. So I'll take any questions or whatever we can do now.
Awesome. Yeah, we have some questions coming in. The first question is what camera, Ralph asked, what camera and lens do you use for your nature photos? Also, do you shoot in RAW mode?
I shoot in RAW mode exclusively, and I've got a Nikon D810, and I've got a Fuji X system, which is the X Pro 1 for infrared converted, and I've got the XE2 and the XT1. I shoot the Fuji most of the time, but not all the time. You really can't argue with twice the resolution, which the D810 has. So I use both. They're both fantastic.
All right. We had David ask, can you address when you use clarity as opposed to adjust?
Or
if you use both, I mean.
Well, I can't say when. A lot of this stuff, David, is basically like I tend to work on the fly a lot. I'll just say, let's go here, let's go there. It's just very whimsical, Let's do this, let's do that. The key is to be familiar enough with the software to be able to do that, where you know what it can do, and you can just jump around. Let's try this, let's try that. I don't think of, I'm going to use this here. I just kind of look at it and say, let's just try that. Let's try this. There's a lot of trial and error to start with, and then the more that you do that, you start to realize what worked for what situation, and it becomes more automatic and less of a thought process involved. But again, you got to put the time in to learn the software,
We had a couple people ask, how would you define fine art, nature photography?
Oh, I don't know. Anybody have any ideas out there? Because I'm not quite sure what that means. It's a great marketing term. It's completely overused. That's why I almost never use it. I'm not sure what it means. I don't know. There's definitions of it, but I kind of know it when I see it. It's a little bit. It's hard to explain. I mean, yeah, as you know, it's hard. It's just hard to quantify.
Yeah, that's fair enough. We actually had a lot of people asking about threshold and if you could define that if possible. I know you covered the term.
I cannot define threshold. I'm an end user. I don't really care what things are supposed to do or what they say they should do. I just move things around and see what they do, and then I apply them the way that works best for me.
Okay. Let's see. Ken asked, do you have a single favorite program of the Topaz family, if you could choose one?
Oh, sure. I mean, Adjust is. I mean, there's many that are tremendous. I use Adjust probably the most. I use a lot of stuff. The stuff that I used here is what I use when I process in varying degrees. I've got a lot of software, but in the Topaz family, what I've used here is what I basically use in general.
And that brings me to the question, a few people asked, do you process the image at all before taking it into Topaz, like in Lightroom or Photoshop? Are there any initial steps you take?
No. I take it right into Topaz from Lightroom into Photoshop into Topaz. The last thing that I'll do is sharpen, so I don't sharpen first, obviously. So I do all the stuff in Topaz when I'm back in Photoshop. If I intend to print, because sharpening is based on printing for the most part, I'll sharpen very lightly for web, or when I print, I'll sharpen based on print size.
Okay. Let's see. Let's look through all these questions. Stephen asked, are there any pluses to making adjustment layers versus smart objects? Do you have any?
You know, I don't really use smart objects. It's got some limitations that I'm not a fan of. But the using layers and masking, that's kind of how I like to work. There's so many ways to work in software based on what's comfortable for you, you know. I've got friends who love smart objects. I just never took to it. You know, I like doing layers and masking. It's very easy for me. I kind of think that way.
Mm-hmm. Donna has a question about your water image. She was wondering if you can offer any tips about how to get that effect when shooting waterfalls.
Waterfalls. Well, you won't see that kind of color in waterfalls. But if you want, because that's mostly the conditions where that works is got to be a stream on ground level basically, and the water's got to be in deep shade. So it's possible to get the very top of the waterfall to reflect some tree color from, you know, like on top there, but the waterfall itself is moving too quickly, you know, to achieve that kind of reflection, you know. But the very top of the waterfall, if it's clear, you'll be able to get that kind of reflection, absolutely. But the key is the water has to be in shade. The deeper the shade, the better. And you need to have, best case scenario is a bright blue sky and a white hot sun striking those trees or that other color subject and throwing that color down into the water that's in the shade. That is when you get that kind of reflection.
Good tip. Steve asked, do you calibrate your monitor, and if you do, with what?
Yes, I do, and Susan does that. I'm sorry. I think we use I1, but we absolutely calibrate, and we have high-end monitors. We have the AZO monitors, which are pretty much the cream, or one of them. A lot of them are good, but you want to get, if you're in the color business, you may as well spend the money you need to spend to get the color reproduced as accurately and as vividly as possible, and that does come with a cost.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have maybe a time for a couple more questions.
I'm fine with, sure. I'm just sitting here, you know.
I'm just reading through all the responses. Let's see. We had someone ask about Restyle, if you use Restyle at all, or if you have any tips for that program.
Well, I use it once in a while. I mean, like I say, there's a lot of plugins, and I tend to favor some more than others. I find Restyle works fairly well on like city scenes. Like I use it on some Cuba images with people in there, you know, to get the vintage kind of a look. But it's not my most used plugin, but when I do use it, it's on scenes like that, and I'll put it on a separate layer as usual, and I may want to brush in the effect somewhere or in various degrees, like we did with the flower here at the end. I'm always masking those effects anyway. Excuse me.
Cool. Carrie asked, what's your favorite time to shoot, if any?
What does that mean? Time of day, time of year?
Yeah, time. I guess time of day, even time of year if there's a season or.
Well, that's very easy. Time of day is morning. I'd much rather go to bed at like 7 o'clock and get up at 3 rather than you know, shoot sunset. Sunrise, early morning has a lot of advantages. It's wet. First of all, there's no people out there. Second of all, and the light's pretty much the same between sunrise and sunset, but the accompanying factors are more myriad in early morning light. Like you'll get fog in the morning, but not in the afternoon in a great deal of cases. But yeah, morning dawn, sunrise is my best. Favorite time of day. Favorite time of year? Boy, that depends on the location. In general, fall is great in New Hampshire, but not for black and white. It doesn't matter if you're shooting black and white. It depends. Fall in New Hampshire is great. Springtime in Tennessee mountains is phenomenal. Springtime in Cape May before the people show up is great. I mean, in so many places, it's more a function of going to the right place at the right time rather than just generally location. It's a matter of the time of year that you go to specific locations,
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll end it with this question then from Leon. He asked, when you start processing an image, which tool would you first consider to try or use? And is there any tip on which tools to first use out of the 14?
Where would I begin?
Mm-hmm.
Probably contrast, saturation, exposure. That's your basic three. And that can be done in Adjust. That can be done in Levels and in Photoshop. Do it in Lightroom. Your basic exposures can be done almost anywhere. What we're talking about with software like Topaz is after that preliminary stuff is done, then you go in and find a way to make it your own, and that's what this stuff is for.
Cool. All right. Well, I will go ahead and thank you so much for the presentation also.
Oh, it's my pleasure always. Thank you and
Yeah.
and Eric and Topaz for the great opportunity.